If you're looking for a top tier set it and forget it robot vac, let me introduce you to the iRobot Roomba Combo 10 Max. Now this is their newest, latest and greatest flagship model, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly how it comes out of the box, set up the app, and put it to the test. Let's go. Now let's start with the AutoDock because this is impressive. On the back side of it, it has so much heft. You can see where you could roll up any additional power cord, and it just has a handle. Keep in mind that you will want to use that handle and use two hands to move this, as it is quite heavy. And then on the front, you have your ramp for the robot vacuum. This is a pretty smart ramp. It has a drainage area. It has weight sensors that bring up what I assume are the charge points. And then it has the suction built in. It even has a spinner built in, which I'm excited to put to the test. And then when you open up the front, you get access to all of the compartments. This is for your vacuum bags, and then these are your clean and dirty water bins. And these really do pull out so clean, very easy to open, easy to clean when you need to, clasp right close, goes back in. And then everything else comes in this cardboard box. The first piece is the spinner that clips into the AutoDock. So I'll just slide that back over here and clip this on in. It's very obvious how it clips in. It has a little green point that'll go in here, and then it has a divot for this to poke into. So that's ready to go. A good 6-foot power cord. I always appreciate when they give you long cords. An extra vacuum bag and an extra HEPA filter, always nice to have on hand. And then you get your duster. This is what helps it understand where it is and gets into corners. What I assume is an extra microfiber for the mop. We'll see when we get to the Roomba itself. But these are very cool in that they are basically a Velcro component that you just pop on, easy to throw in the wash. I have used Roombas for years. These really do hold up well. And then you get a quick start guide and a warranty. Keep in mind that the manuals for all iRobot Roomba vacs are online. Once you set up the app, you'll have access to all the information. And then here is the Roomba 10 itself. This is so cool in so many ways. First off, you can see that camera right there. And on the bottom, you can see that it already has a feather duster, or however they call these things, installed. This will constantly be spinning, keeping an eye on where it is, helps it understand how it is rubbing against edges. Really nice wheels, lots of traction going on here. This is the very standard Roomba Combo vac, suction and spinners. And I want to point out that iRobot has been making robot vacs for 20 years. So these are all iterative, they are constantly improving, and I really love many of the improvements they've made. To pop this out, you really can just take these all the way out. So they're very easy to clean, and since there's two of them, they spin together, really pulling up a lot more mess quickly. And then you have a little spinner wheel on the front. Right here, this is for the auto dirt disposal when it connects to the dock. And then on the back side here, you can actually remove the tank. This is if you need to manually empty it. And this is also where it holds all the water for cleaning. So this is removable. I do appreciate that this still gives you a lot of control there. And then finally, this is where the mop head is, which is very different than prior Roombas because this is designed to actually come down and go down to the ground when it needs to mop. And then it actually raises back up and sits on top of the combo robot when not in use, so you don't have any risk of it getting your carpets wet. It will adapt to different surfaces as needed. And as you can see, it's very easy to remove this. It just has that clip. And then once you push the clip in, it really is just Velcro. Just make sure it's not in the way of it closing down, and you're good to go. Let's plug this in and set up the app. And here it is all plugged in. It is sleek. You can see the light on it. It's very minimalist, really quite pretty. And on the top, these are what will light up to warn you about anything. Tells you if you need to empty the trash, add more clean water, empty the dirty water, or it lets you know when it's charging. This was lit up until it was fully charged. So now this is ready to go. And you may notice that it's next to another iRobot Roomba vac. This is the 505. I am testing that as well. And my next video will be comparing these two. But back to the 10, as you can see in a very quick comparison, it is quite large. It is impressive. It does have a solid top though, which I really like, as this means I can put things on top of it or put it under something. I don't need to access that top. Let's set it up in the app. Now I'm in the iRobot Classic app, and you can see that I just need to set up the Roomba Combo. It already found it, but if it hadn't found it, I could actually scan the bottom of it for a QR code. There are other ways to sign in, but I've never had an issue with these. And now it wants me to press the robot's button to connect to my phone. And then it wants me to connect to my Wi-Fi. And now we're connected. And I'm naming this one Garmadon, as my other one is actually named Lloyd from the Lego Ninjago movie. Now the first thing Garmadon's going to need is a map of my home. So let's see how long this takes. Garmadon is not a LiDAR robot vac, so this may take longer. It says up to an hour. We will see how long this takes. So I hit next, make sure all my doors are open, everything's ready to go, and start mapping. Now he definitely understands to avoid stairwells. No problem there. But because this doesn't have LiDAR, it is definitely slower in mapping my home, a lot more going back and forth and going all the way to the edges, bonking against them, and then rolling along those edges to make sure it has everything. So I did a quick map. I actually left a couple doors closed, and Garmadon did do a good job on the map. Keep in mind that this is iRobot's older technology, so it doesn't have the LiDAR. It does take time. It took about 40 minutes, as the robot really does kind of bonk into things and go back and forth quite a bit to confirm it got everything. But once you have your map, you can change room dividers, you can actually move anything, you can add new ones, you can change the names of rooms, and you can also add specific zones. Like in the bedroom, it already recognized that there was a carpet here, but I added a zone right there and I made it a no mop zone. I also marked another zone, which you could see up here in the kitchen. This is actually underneath the gas stovetop, and I don't want it going under there. And now all I really need to do to get it ready to go is add some cleaning fluid. And I went ahead and added a diluted mixture of this Bona floor cleaner. This is one of the approved cleaners. While I could just use this cleaner as is, I know these go through a lot of cleaner, so that's why I diluted it. And if I wasn't mopping so often, I would want to use this at full concentration, but because I'll be mopping so much, a diluted version should be plenty. And now I'm ready to clean. I can obviously do some quick favorites like vacuum and mop everywhere or vacuum everywhere. Or if I click new job, whatever I set can become a favorite. And I already set up a schedule that at 9 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's going to clean the living room and the kitchen in very specific ways. In the living room, it's going to vacuum and mop at medium suction, but I want it to be more careful so it doesn't just bonk everything. And I definitely want to wash the pad after cleaning this room. And then for the kitchen, I want it to actually do the SmartScrub, and I don't actually care if it's careful or not. And again, wash that pad after this room. So let's have it go. I'm just gonna have it vacuum and mop everywhere. And we're rolling. Now the first thing it's doing is adding the water. And that was basically silent. So I was really impressed by that. And now it's getting started. And that's the sound of the vacuum. And now it's putting down the mop. That is the coolest thing. Now I went ahead and made 2 messes. It's looking like it's about to hit the granola. See how it does. It was kind of disastrous for the first pass. We'll see if it does any better now that it knows it was there. And it is going back and forth on that area to clean it better. So I'm hoping it will go and clean up the mess it made too. I also have spilled some milk. We'll see how it does on that. Now the next test, of course, is whether or not it will avoid objects. So once it spins, I'm gonna throw an object out in the way. It did. It avoided it. That's great. That's what I want to see. I want to see it adapt, and it totally did. So it stopped right there and turned around, and if I'd kept it there, it would have kept doing that. Moment of truth. Now I went through it, but it didn't react the way I had hoped it would. Now I actually stopped the cleaning early because it kept mopping with that milky mop, and I want it to go self-clean. Now normally your home won't be so dirty that it needs to self-clean after just going through the living room like this, but because it did that, I do want to see how the self-clean goes before I get milk all over my whole floor. And there was the super loud vacuum suction as it pulled all the dirt up into the AutoDock. And now it's actually going to roll back out and drop down its mop. And that roller in there is going to clean the mop head. Now it just washed the mop head, and all that suction you hear is it both rinsing it and sucking the water out at the same time. So it does a really good clean on that. And now that it's cleaned the mop, it's sucking all of the liquid out of the vacuum as well. So it definitely has multiple steps to make sure it's super clean before it goes back to sleep. And now it's finished. So it took a little time for it to fully clean itself, but I'm glad I stopped it, as you may notice that it tracked milk. Since last night, I've run the Combo 10 about 5 different times, cleaning the whole downstairs, going after specific messes, avoiding obstacles, and some things it does very well, and some it really disappointed me on. I would say that if you have had one of the Roomba Combo vacs before, this is a massive step up. Not only in the fact that it will lift the mop out of the way when it switches to carpet, that part's really nice. The fact that it will self-clean everything and you don't have to deal with the dirty tank of water or of debris. So very nice. And it avoided obstacles like a champ. I could throw things in front of it and it would stop immediately and avoid those obstacles, which kind of shocked me because then the next moment it would bonk into a piece of furniture. But when it comes to bonking into furniture and walls, that is intentional, and I do actually really like that it does go closer to the edges than most of the LiDAR vacuums. And thanks to its little duster spinner, it really does clean the edges really well. So I really did like that part. Now the mapping did take 40 minutes, and I even closed 2 doors to try to make it go faster. And that's because since it doesn't have LiDAR, it does actually go up against all the surfaces and work around the spaces to confirm it understands your space as best as possible. This again is completely expected for these types of combo Roombas. So if you've had one in the past, you know that this is the norm, and that once you have that first map, you're golden, because once you have that map, it will continue to adapt accordingly. If it finds a new space, it will add that to the map. If you move your furniture around, it will update the map over time. So I shouldn't have to ever run that map again unless I move it to different floors. But it is annoying that it takes 40 minutes, so just keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to cleaning, this is where I'm quite mixed. It does do a great job on all the different surfaces. It adapts when it went up on carpet. It would turn up its vacuum when it found a dirtier area. And if you were using this on a regular basis and you weren't throwing things like cereal and mayonnaise and coffee grounds and milk at it like I was, it should handle it just fine. But I threw a bunch of big messes at it, and in each instance, it actually failed. With the granola, it spun it around, it got most of it, but a lot of it, it just spread across the floor. With the milk, it actually looked like it mopped the milk really well, but because it's not smart enough to go back and clean its mop head when its mop head gets too dirty, it then spread milky mop across the rest of my floor. I actually stopped that cleaning round and had it go back and clean itself because that was gross. And then when it came to the coffee grounds, it did an okay job on them, but kind of like the granola, some of it spun out of the way. And it completely failed with the mayonnaise. The mayonnaise just confused it or made everything too slippery, and it just got stuck. It couldn't spin. It just sat on top of the mayonnaise disaster it made. In the end, I had to wipe that up and call that a loss. So when you're throwing really big messes at this one, it's not going to handle it. But if you're regular day-to-day cleaning and you just want something that you can automate, it really does have that covered. When it comes to automations, it does have a lot more automations than the prior combos had. You really can choose whether you want a deeper clean, 2 cleans, if you just want to vacuum or mop, or do both on different spaces. And you can even tell it to not bonk into things if you want to. So you really can make really fancy automations for this, so it will keep your space beautiful, and it does meet that. So some definite cons in the cleaning, but only because I was putting it through some really rigorous testing. If you were using this for normal cleaning, I think it would do a beautiful job. It actually does have a really nice suction. I like how much liquid it uses while mopping. The space does seem to be mopped very cleanly. So like I keep saying, I'm quite mixed on the Combo 10 Max. I think if you've had a Combo Roomba before, you are going to love it, but just know that it does have some limitations. And I think my favorite parts about it are the obstacle avoidance and that it keeps itself clean with that AutoDock, so I don't have to deal with dumping it or refilling it or that mop head just staying wet and gross for long periods of time. It's very much a set and forget combo robot, and that part's really cool. So if you can get this at a really good price, I think it's worth it. Hope this video helps you make a decision.